All right, Bob Aaron wants to put Jeff Horn in there with Terence Crawford, his WBO mandatory, which I explained that situation in 1 second. He wants to put Horn and Terence Crawford in there in Vegas in April. I think April 10th or something like that is the date. It's your boy CJ Goodfellow back with the Boxing Clinic and more. But I'm about to tell you why Jeff Horn might not even take this fight. Sounds like some duck, goose, some duck sauce. It's about to come. But I tell you how Crawford became the mandatory. Now the WBO has a rule that I've seen implemented before people have got on game with this Crawford thing. If you're a champion at a lower weight class and you want to move up, you automatically become the #1 contender for the next weight class. You jump the line because you're a champion in a lower weight class. Now this has been offered to Demetrius Andrade. He was offered to drop his junior middleweight WBO title or hold it until he figured out what he wanted to do to move up to fight Matt Korobov and beat the #1 and fight for the vacant belt that Peter Quillen let go. This has happened with Terry Flanagan. He dropped his 135-pound title at lightweight, moved up to 140. Now he's fighting Maurice Hooker for the vacant WBO title Crawford leaves behind. So it has happened in the past, and it still has been happening. It's up to the fighter to see if they want it. Canelo Alvarez is another guy who's done that. He's been offered when he was 154-pound titleist, when he went down from Super Canelo weight and beat Lyman Smith. He can still be the #1 WBO champion. I'm a contender right now to David Lemieux and Billy Joe Saunders to win a belt. So it has happened. And it still is happening. It's prominent in boxing. I think a lot of fans haven't recognized that. But Jeff Horn says, he's thinking about fighting Anthony Mundine. Now, we talked about this a couple months ago. I believe I dropped that video talking about how if Pacquiao was the rematch or whatever, that, Mundine wanted to fight Horn at a catch weight somewhere like 155 or somewhere in there what he still could make. Because over there, domestically in Australia, that's a big fight. Mundine is an Australian fighter, and so is Jeff Horn. And that's a big clash, and that could bring a lot of money, a lot of hype. And Horn, a couple months ago, was thinking about dropping his belt and fighting Anthony Mundine and crashing Bob Aaron plans. So that still can happen. I'm going to link this article to the description so you know that it's true. And Jeff Horn says if Anthony Mundine brings more money than the Terence Crawford fight than Bob Aaron is offering him, he might move up and fight Anthony Mundine, which means that he didn't want to fight his mandatory unless the WBO offer him a voluntary defense with Anthony Mundine and then come back down and fight Terence Crawford, which Bob Aaron would tell the WBO, which he controls right along with Oscar De La Hoya at certain weight classes. Hell no, we ain't doing that. Make him strip him of that belt. And, we're going to have Crawford lining up with the next mandatory contender, which would be Manny Pacquiao. So, we might get Pacquiao Crawford sooner than you expect in April in Las Vegas, and that's if Pacquiao wants to take that fight. And Pacquiao has been upgraded to like colonel or something like that in the Filipino army as they they still in war. So if he's still over there entrenched in politics, I definitely would take Crawford by colossal ass whooping. I think focused Manny Pacquiao is going out the door, and I wish he would retire as well. But if he wants to try to prove his greatness one more time versus Terence Crawford, which he hasn't been willing to do the last 7,000 times he's been offering that fight, it is what it is. Then the next highest ranked contender will be Lucas Matisse. But if Matisse wins, lose, or draw versus this guy January 27th, he becomes the regular WBA title, which ain't a real title. Matisse won't be that. Then they have to continue to go down the line, which I didn't look that far down the WBO line. Maybe Jesse Vargas is still there somewhere. But, if he chooses to go ahead and fight Terence Crawford, he says that his coach said they feel like they can expose some weaknesses in Terence Crawford. Every fighter have his weaknesses. And Bud gets hit, a lot, but he's closed that gap up, man. I've seen in his game, his last 2 fights, I see an improvement, and I see a very confident and healthy Terence Crawford at 147. Now, what makes me think this is the perfect introduction to 147 pounds for Terence Crawford is Jeff Horn is one of the most physically, strong and just physically gifted as far as strength and size and, rehydrating the next night, which the WBO, I don't believe, have a same-day weigh-in and rehydration rule. He's very strong. So we're going to be able to see Terence Crawford's punching power and new 147-pound body and speed on display. Horn will be a great gauge because he has one of the better chins in the 147-pound division to know where Crawford's power is. Now, Crawford is able to bang out Jeff Horn in the first half of the fight or knock him out in spectacular fashion at any point in the fight, then we know, Terence Crawford is still striking and the power is probably going up with the weight. My general belief is, 147 is right where Crawford is not immortal. I think he's one of the other guys. I think he's still going to be strong and fast and all that good stuff. But it's also guys that's comparable or that's stronger, faster, or punch harder than him at 147. I think he'll be able to look guys will be able to look him eye to eye, or he's going to look up to some guys as far as physical gifts, strength, speed, power, and boxing skill. I think he's in the most competitive division that he's ever been. When he was at 135, it wasn't hot. At 140, to me it wasn't hot. He fought a lot of no-name guys, or not no-name guys, but not the Earl Spence, Keith Thurman, Danny Garcia, Sean Porter. He didn't have any of those guys that was of that ilk at 140. Postal was a good guy. Let's get me wrong. Danny paid him to step aside. Derrick John, Thomas Delorme was gifted. He didn't have a jaw. Felix Diaz, he really beat Lamont Peterson. Let's keep it real. But I just believe that he's going to have more guys that's just as physically gifted as him and has great boxing skill in him at 147. And I feel, Jeff Horn is the perfect opponent to gauge where Terence Crawford is physically stepping into the 147-pound division, stepping into that dojo. And we're going to see, can he take Horn's power? Can he take Horn's physical strength pushing on him? Can he deal with Horn's awkwardness? How do he deal with somebody that's actually as physically fit as him as far as size, or who rehydrates heavier than him? Crawford, over his time at 135 and 140, has always enjoyed a weight advantage, a height and length advantage for the most part versus guys. He won't have some of those at 147. And I think if Jeff Horn chooses to take the blue pill and fight Terence Crawford, I think we'll be able to see where Crawford is gauged at. It's better than him fighting a guy who was a blown-up joke during welterweight, or a guy who was a blown-up 135-pounder, or a guy that jumped up several divisions. And out here, he's fighting legit, big, physically strong welterweight in Jeff Horn. And I think it'll make sense. But I have a sense that Jeff Horn is going to dip set, and go fight Anthony Mundine, unless he's just using that as leverage on Bob Arum to pay him correctly or more facing Terence Crawford. So we'll see how Jeff Horn plays the game. We going.